All right, let's talk about a place that's practically a synonym for disaster, Chernobyl. But what if that toxic, irradiated wasteland is actually one of the most exciting laboratories for evolution on the entire planet right now? Yeah, this is not just a story about survival. It's about life literally learning to eat what should have been deadly poison.
And this quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? We're not looking at some post-apocalyptic graveyard here. We're exploring a crucible of creation. Against all odds, the disaster zone has turned into this incredible place of discovery. And what's being discovered there? Well, it's forcing us to completely rethink the absolute limits of what life can do.
So, quick history lesson, right? 1986, Reactor 4 goes critical. A total cataclysm. We scrambled to build the first sarcophagus, and then, much later in 2016, that massive new safe confinement was put in place. But here's the thing. While we were focused on building walls to keep the radiation in, something else was happening inside. Nature was busy. It was adapting, mutating, and building this thriving, totally unique ecosystem.
And that right there, that's the central paradox of Chernobyl. You have this environment that's just soaked in lethal radiation, and life isn't just, barely hanging on. It's actively rewriting its own rulebook. The adaptations we're seeing are happening at a blistering, almost unbelievable evolutionary pace. I mean, just look at some of these adaptations. We've got eastern tree frogs turning jet black. It's a process called melanism, and remember that, because it's a huge clue we're going to circle back to. Then you've got wolves with these bizarrely cancer-resistant immune systems. Birds are producing insane levels of antioxidants. And it's not just them. Across the board, from tiny microbes all the way up to mammals, we're seeing these supercharged DNA repair mechanisms. This isn't just passive survival. It is an active, full-blown genetic arms race.
So this is where the story goes from just being about resilience to being about a potential revolution in biology. I mean, surviving is one thing, right? But actively feeding on lethal radiation, using it as a food source, that sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But it's happening, right now, which leads to the big question, how is that even possible?
Well, the answer, it turns out, lies in a molecule most of us already know. It's called melanin. Yeah, the same stuff that gives us suntans and freckles. But its role in Chernobyl, it reveals something way more extraordinary. Something that, especially for those of you in biotech, could be the key to a whole new frontier.
Okay, so we all learned about photosynthesis in school, right? Plants take sunlight, turn it into energy. Simple enough. Now imagine that, but instead of sunlight, you're using deadly radiation. That's what some fungi in Chernobyl are doing. It's a process they're calling radiosynthesis. They are grabbing high-energy gamma and beta particles and turning them into chemical energy. They are literally eating radiation.
And here's how it works. This is the amazing part. Melanin isn't just a passive shield like sunscreen. No. From a biotech perspective, it's basically a biological semiconductor. It's this incredible polymer that can take the chaotic, destructive force of ionizing radiation and tame it. It turns that chaos into an orderly, usable flow of electrons. It's like a tiny, organic piece of electronics forged by evolution.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the biochemistry for a second. Step 1. A high-energy particle, bam! It strikes a melanin molecule. But instead of just destroying things, the melanin absorbs that energy. Step 2. It then releases this nice stable stream of electrons. Step 3. Those electrons get funneled right into the cell's existing machinery, the electron transport chain. And the result? Step 4. The cell cranks out ATP, the energy currency for all life. It's incredible. These fungi have basically hacked their own metabolism to run on nuclear fuel.
Okay, so let's zoom out a little. What does this all mean for the bigger picture? What we're seeing in Chernobyl, it's way more than just a clever survival trick. It's a powerful demonstration of a fundamental law of nature, one that maybe we've been overlooking.
And that truth is this. Life isn't just about avoiding threats. It's about exploiting every single available energy source. It doesn't matter if that energy comes from the sun, a deep-sea volcanic vent, or a decaying atom in a nuclear disaster zone. If there's an energy gradient, you can bet life will find a way to plug into it. It is the ultimate energetic opportunist.
And if you don't believe me, this chart says it all. Researchers found that these special fungi don't just put up with radiation, they actively seek it out. It's a phenomenon called radiotropism. They literally grow towards the hottest, most radioactive particles. They're not running from the danger, they're running towards their dinner.
You know, this relentless drive to build something complex out of total chaos, it really highlights this massive tug of war between two opposing forces in the universe. A nuclear explosion is the perfect symbol for one side, but the life that grows from its ashes, that's the symbol for the other. So on one side, you have entropy. We've all heard of it, right? The universal tendency for things to fall apart, to become more disordered. It's the universe running down. But on the other side, we see its mirror image, synthropy. This is the tendency of life to do the opposite, to gather up scattered energy and build things that are more complex, more ordered. And Chernobyl, wow, it's the ultimate showcase. You have a zone of maximum entropy that has somehow given birth to this explosion of synthropic, life-building adaptation.
So what's behind this syntropy? What's the driving force? Well, to try and get a handle on it, some thinkers are bringing back an ancient concept called the logos. Now, this isn't anything mystical. Think of it more like the universe's fundamental operating system, or its software. It's this built-in drive towards creating more complex, more organized patterns. It's a way of naming the why behind life's incredible, relentless creativity.
So how does this ordering principle actually build stuff? Okay, prepare to have your mind bent a little. Here's an idea from the source material. What if matter isn't really a solid thing at all, but a process? Imagine light trapped in a spiraling vortex, a path that swirls and swirls but never perfectly closes on itself. And that constant, almost but not quite closed loop is what our senses perceive as a stable particle. So matter isn't a substance, it's a pattern. I know that might sound super philosophical, but it has massive practical implications. Think about it. If nature actually operates on these syntropic principles, on this geometry of open patterns, what happens if we as engineers, as researchers, start designing our own technology with that same principle in mind?
And that right there is the challenge. Can we finally move beyond our current technologies, which are mostly entropy-based, right? You burn fuel, you create waste and disorder. Can we instead start building syntropic technologies? Can we design materials and systems that do what the Chernobyl fungi do, that take waste energy and use it to build order?
Just picture it, a syntropic city. Imagine buildings coated in a kind of synthetic moss, a new polymer that we could design with tools like AlphaFold, specifically to mimic what melanin does. This material wouldn't just be a wall. It would actively absorb the waste heat from the city, that's a form of entropy, right? And convert it into electricity, cooling the environment at the same time. Our concrete jungles could literally become living forests of light, generating power just by being there.
And this all comes back to that wild idea about the geometry of light. The reason evolution can even happen, the reason life is so creative, is because the system is never a closed loop. That tiny little imperfection, that gap that prevents the path from ever fully closing on itself, that's the engine of creation. It's this beautiful idea that openness, that not quite perfectness, is the absolute requirement for any kind of growth.
And so, let's end with this. The biggest lesson from Chernobyl is that nature sees our most terrifying toxic waste not as an end, but as a beginning, as a fuel source. So it forces us to ask ourselves, what other forms of waste and entropy are we just completely overlooking? The waste heat pouring out of our cities? The excess CO2 in our atmosphere? What chaos are we creating right now that, if we just had the right syntropic mindset, is actually a resource just waiting to be tapped? The answer to that question, well, it could literally redefine our future.